The August heat was merciless on Interstate 10, the kind of thick, suffocating warmth that made the asphalt shimmer like water in the distance. Raymond Torres wiped the sweat from his forehead and adjusted the air conditioning in his Kenworth W900, grateful for the cool air that blasted from the vents. At 48 years old, he'd been driving trucks for over 2 decades, and he still was not used to the Arizona summers. His cargo today was refrigerated produce bound for Phoenix, tomatoes and lettuce that needed to arrive fresh before the morning markets opened. The schedule was tight, but Raymond had made this run dozens of times. He knew every rest stop, every shortcut, every speed trap along the way. The CB radio crackled with chatter from other truckers, complaints about the heat and warnings about a construction zone near mile marker 145. Raymond listened with half an ear, his mind drifting to other things. His daughter Maria was graduating from nursing school next month, the first person in their family to earn a college degree. He had already requested the time off, had already bought his plane ticket to San Antonio. Nothing was going to make him miss that ceremony. The truck stop at exit 78 appeared on his right, a familiar oasis in the desert landscape. Raymond had not planned to stop, but his bladder had other ideas, and he figured he could use a cold drink anyway. He guided the massive truck into the parking area, finding a spot in the shade of a billboard advertising a casino 40 miles down the road. The heat hit him like a wall when he opened the door, dry and relentless. Raymond hurried across the parking lot, his boots crunching on the gravel, the sun beating down on his shoulders. Inside the truck stop, the air conditioning was a blessed relief, and he stood for a moment just inside the door, letting his body adjust to the temperature change. The place was half empty, just a few other truckers scattered at the tables, and a family of tourists studying a map near the drink coolers. Raymond made his way to the restroom, took care of business, then headed to the counter to buy a bottle of water and a bag of chips. That was when he noticed the boy. He was sitting on the curb outside, just visible through the glass doors, his knees pulled up to his chest and his arms wrapped around them. He could not have been more than 9 or 10 years old, with messy brown hair and clothes that looked too big for his thin frame. Even from this distance, Raymond could see that something was wrong. The boy's shoulders were shaking, and his face was buried in his arms. Raymond paid for his purchases and stepped back outside, the heat immediately pressing down on him again. He hesitated, looking at the boy, his instincts telling him to keep walking, to mind his own business, to stick to his schedule. But something about the kid's posture, the way he seemed so completely alone, tugged at something deep in Raymond's chest. He walked over slowly, not wanting to startle him. "Hey there," he said, keeping his voice gentle. "You okay, son?" The boy's head snapped up, revealing a face streaked with tears and eyes wide with fear. For a moment he just stared at Raymond, his breath coming in quick, panicked gasps. "Easy, easy," Raymond said, holding up his hands. "I'm not going to hurt you. I just noticed you sitting here by yourself. Are you lost?" The boy shook his head frantically, then seemed to change his mind and nodded instead. His lower lip trembled, and fresh tears spilled down his cheeks. Raymond crouched down to the boy's level, ignoring the protest from his knees. "What's your name, kid?" The boy swallowed hard, his voice barely above a whisper. "Ethan. Ethan Miller." "Okay, Ethan. I'm Raymond. Can you tell me what's going on? Where are your parents?" At the mention of parents, something shifted in Ethan's expression. The fear deepened, mixing with something else. Something that looked almost like shame. "I don't have parents," he said quietly. "I mean, I have a dad, but he's not really my dad. He's my stepdad. My mum died 2 years ago." Raymond felt his heart constrict. "I'm sorry to hear that, son. That's really tough. So where's your stepdad now?" Ethan's eyes darted around the parking lot, as if expecting someone to appear at any moment. "He's in the car. Over there." He pointed to a beat-up sedan parked at the far end of the lot, its windows rolled up tight despite the heat. "He told me to wait here while he went inside, but that was a long time ago. I think maybe an hour." Raymond frowned. An hour was a long time to leave a kid sitting in the sun in this heat. He looked at the sedan, then back at Ethan. "And he didn't leave you any water? Anything to drink?" Ethan shook his head. "He said I didn't deserve any because I was being bad in the car." The words sent a chill down Raymond's spine despite the heat. "What do you mean, being bad?" "I asked too many questions." Ethan's voice dropped even lower. "He doesn't like it when I ask questions. He says I should just shut up and be grateful he keeps me around." Raymond studied the boy's face, noticing for the first time the faded bruise on his cheekbone, partially hidden by his messy hair. He felt a cold anger building in his chest, the kind of anger that came from recognizing a situation for what it really was. "Ethan," he said carefully, "has your stepdad ever hurt you?" The boy's reaction was immediate and telling. He flinched, his whole body tensing, his eyes filling with fresh tears. "Please," he whispered, "please don't tell him I talked to you. He'll be so mad. He trailed off, but Raymond did not need him to finish the sentence. He had seen enough, heard enough. This child was in danger. "Listen to me, Ethan," Raymond said firmly but gently. "I'm not going to tell him anything. But I need you to be honest with me. Are you in trouble? Do you need help?" Ethan looked at him for a long moment, something warring in his young eyes. Then, in a voice so small Raymond almost did not hear it, he said, "Please arrest me." Raymond blinked, certain he had misheard. "What did you say?" "Please arrest me," Ethan repeated, his voice growing slightly stronger. "Take me to jail. I'll go to jail. I don't care. Just please, please don't make me go back with him." The words hit Raymond like a physical blow. This child, this 9-year-old boy, was begging to be arrested rather than returned to the man who was supposed to be taking care of him. The desperation in his voice, the terror in his eyes, painted a picture that made Raymond's stomach turn. "Ethan," Raymond said slowly, "I'm not a police officer. I can't arrest anyone. I'm just a truck driver." The hope in Ethan's eyes flickered and died. "Oh," he said, his shoulders slumping. "I thought your truck looked like—" "Never mind." Raymond realized the boy must have seen his truck with its official-looking company logos and assumed he was some kind of authority figure. The misunderstanding was heartbreaking in its innocence. "But listen to me," Raymond continued, leaning closer. "I can't arrest you, but I can help you. I can call the real police. I can make sure you're safe. Do you want me to do that?" Ethan's eyes widened with fear. "No! If you call the police, they'll just send me back to him. They always do. He tells them I'm a liar, that I make up stories for attention, and then when we get home, he punishes me for trying to get help." Raymond's jaw tightened. He had heard stories like this before, had seen the news reports about children slipping through the cracks of a system that was supposed to protect them. But hearing it from this small, trembling boy made it real in a way that news reports never could. "Okay," Raymond said, thinking quickly. "Okay, let's slow down. Tell me everything, Ethan. From the beginning. What's been happening?" Ethan hesitated, his eyes darting to the sedan again. "He'll be back soon. He always comes back." "Then talk fast," Raymond said. "I need to understand what's going on so I can figure out how to help you." The story came out in fits and starts, Ethan's voice sometimes dropping so low that Raymond had to lean in to hear. His mother had died of an overdose 2 years ago, leaving him alone with his stepfather, a man named Derek Miller, who had adopted him after marrying his mother. There was no other family, no grandparents or aunts or uncles who could take him in. Derek was his only legal guardian. At first, things had been okay. Derek had been sad about losing Ethan's mother, and he had mostly ignored the boy, which Ethan said was actually better than what came later. But then Derek started drinking more, and the drinking made him angry, and the anger needed somewhere to go. "It started with yelling," Ethan said, his voice flat and hollow, "then pushing, then hitting. He says it's my fault. He says I remind him of my mum, and that makes him mad. He says if I was a better kid, he wouldn't have to hurt me." Raymond listened, his heart breaking with every word. He thought about Maria, about how he would move heaven and earth to protect her from anyone who tried to hurt her. The idea that a child could have no one, absolutely no one, to stand between them and their abuser was almost incomprehensible. "Have you ever told anyone?" Raymond asked. "A teacher? A doctor?" Ethan nodded miserably. "I told my teacher last year. She called someone, and they came to our house. But Derek was really nice to them, showed them my room and everything, and I got scared and said I made it up. After they left, The boy's voice cracked. "He broke my arm, told the hospital I fell off my bike." Raymond closed his eyes, fighting to keep his composure. When he opened them again, Ethan was watching him with an expression of hopeless resignation. "You see," Ethan said quietly, "there's no point. No one ever believes me. And even if they did, he'd just find me again. He always finds me. So I figured, maybe if I did something bad, something really bad, they'd have to put me somewhere he couldn't reach. That's why I asked you to arrest me. I thought maybe jail would be safer than home." The logic was devastating in its simplicity. This child had concluded that prison would be preferable to his own house, that being locked up as a criminal was better than being free with his abuser. Raymond had to look away for a moment, blinking hard against the moisture in his eyes. "Ethan," he said finally, his voice rough with emotion, "listen to me. You haven't done anything wrong. You don't deserve to go to jail. You don't deserve any of what's happened to you, and I promise you, I am going to help you. I don't know how yet, but I'm going to figure this out." Ethan looked at him with eyes too old for his young face. "You can't promise that. Nobody can promise that. Watch me," Raymond said. Before he could say anything else, a voice cut through the air like a knife. "Ethan, what the hell do you think you're doing?" Raymond turned to see a man striding across the parking lot, his face twisted with anger. He was maybe 35, with a shaved head and a goatee, wearing a stained tank top and jeans. His eyes were bloodshot, and there was something unstable in the way he moved, like a coiled spring ready to snap. Ethan scrambled to his feet, his whole body trembling. "Derek, I didn't..." "You didn't what?" Derek snarled, closing the distance between them. "I told you to stay put. I told you not to talk to anyone. What part of that was too complicated for your stupid brain to understand?" Raymond rose to his full height, placing himself between Derek and the boy. "Take it easy," he said, his voice calm but firm. "The kid was just sitting in the sun. I came over to make sure he was okay." Derek's eyes narrowed, taking in Raymond's size, and the truck parked behind him. "Mind your own business, old man." "This is a family matter." "Doesn't look like much of a family to me," Raymond replied evenly. "Looks more like a scared kid and an angry man who's been drinking." Derek's face reddened. "How dare you? You don't know anything about us. Come on, Ethan, we're leaving." He reached past Raymond to grab Ethan's arm, but Raymond stepped sideways, blocking him. "I don't think so." For a moment, the two men stood face to face, the tension crackling between them like electricity. Derek was younger, but Raymond was bigger, and there was a steadiness in his eyes that made the other man hesitate. "You want to start something?" Derek hissed. "You want to get in the middle of this? I'll have the cops here so fast." "Go ahead," Raymond said. "Call them. I'd love to have a conversation with them about why you left a 9-year-old sitting in the sun for an hour, without water, about the bruises on his face, about the things he just told me." Derek's expression flickered, uncertainty replacing some of the anger. "He's lying. He's always lying. The kid's disturbed. Is he?" Raymond pulled out his phone. "Let's find out. I'm going to call 911 right now, and we can all have a nice chat about what's really going on here." Derek's eyes darted from the phone to Ethan to the truck stop entrance, where a few people had started to gather, drawn by the confrontation. Raymond could see the calculation happening behind those bloodshot eyes, the realization that making a scene here, in public, with witnesses, was not going to end well. "Fine," Derek spat. "Keep the little brat. He's nothing but trouble anyway. I'm done with him." He turned and stalked back toward his sedan, leaving Raymond and Ethan standing in the blazing sun. A moment later, the engine roared to life. and the car peeled out of the parking lot, tires squealing on the hot asphalt. Raymond stood there, watching until the car disappeared down the highway, before turning to look at Ethan. The boy was staring after the sedan with an expression Raymond could not quite read. "He left," Ethan said quietly, his voice filled with disbelief. "He actually left." Raymond knelt down beside him. "Are you okay?" Ethan looked at him, and suddenly the dam broke. He threw himself into Raymond's arms, sobbing so hard his whole body shook. Raymond held him, patting his back awkwardly, feeling completely out of his depth, but determined not to let go. "It's okay," he murmured over and over. "It's okay. You're safe now. I've got you." They stayed like that for a long time, until Ethan's sobs subsided into hiccups and his trembling eased. Finally the boy pulled back, wiping his face with his hands. "What happens now?" he asked. Raymond took a deep breath. "Now, we go inside where it's cool, get you something to drink, and I make some phone calls. There are people who can help, Ethan. Real help, not the kind that sends you back to him. I'm going to make sure of it." "How do you know?" Ethan asked, his voice small. "Because I'm not going to stop until I find them," Raymond said simply. "And because you deserve better than what you've had. Every kid does." They walked into the truck stop together, Raymond's hand resting protectively on Ethan's shoulder. The air conditioning enveloped them like a cool embrace, and Raymond guided the boy to a booth in the corner, away from the windows and the watching eyes. He bought Ethan a sandwich and a large cup of lemonade, watching as the boy devoured the food like he had not eaten in days. Maybe he had not. The thought made Raymond's stomach clench with renewed anger. While Ethan ate, Raymond pulled out his phone and started making calls. He called 911 first, explaining the situation as calmly as he could, giving them the location and the description of Derek's car. The dispatcher assured him that units were being sent, that someone would be there soon. Then he called Maria. His daughter answered on the second ring, her voice bright and cheerful. "Dad! I wasn't expecting to hear from you until tonight." "Mija," Raymond said, keeping his voice low, "I need your help. You're almost a nurse. You know about these things. What do I do when I find a kid who's being abused and his guardian just abandoned him?" There was a pause, and when Maria spoke again, her voice was serious. "Tell me everything." Raymond did quietly, while Ethan finished his sandwich and started on a bag of chips. Maria listened without interrupting, and when he was done, she said, "You did the right thing, Dad. Calling 911 was the right move. When the police get there, they'll involve Child Protective Services. It might take a while, but they'll find him somewhere safe to stay." "What if they send him back?" Raymond asked. "He said that happened before." "It shouldn't," Maria said. "Not if you document everything. Take pictures of any visible bruises. Write down exactly what he told you. Get contact information for any witnesses. The more evidence you have, the harder it will be for them to ignore." Raymond nodded, even though she could not see him. "Okay, I can do that. What else?" "Just stay with him," Maria said gently. "Let him know he's not alone. That's probably the most important thing right now. Thanks, Mija. I love you." "Love you too, Dad. Call me later and let me know how it turns out." Raymond hung up and turned back to Ethan, who was watching him with wary eyes. "Was that your daughter?" "Yeah, Maria. She's going to be a nurse soon. She told me what to do next." "What did she say?" "She said to take care of you," Raymond replied, "and that's exactly what I'm going to do." Over the next few hours, everything Maria had predicted came true. The police arrived first, 2 officers who took Raymond's statement and then gently questioned Ethan in a separate booth. Raymond watched from a distance, his heart aching, as the boy recounted his story to yet another set of strangers. Then came a woman from Child Protective Services, a middle-aged lady with kind eyes and a soft voice who introduced herself as Patricia Delgado. She spoke with Ethan for a long time, showing him pictures and asking him questions, while Raymond paced the truck stop floor, checking his watch and worrying about his delivery schedule. But every time he thought about leaving, he looked at Ethan and knew he could not do it. Not until he was sure the boy was safe. Finally, Patricia came over to speak with him. "Mr. Torres, thank you for everything you've done. Your quick thinking may have saved this child's life. What happens to him now? Raymond asked. We're going to take him to an emergency foster placement tonight, Patricia said. Tomorrow, we'll start the process of finding him a more permanent situation. Given the circumstances and the fact that his stepfather has voluntarily abandoned him, we should be able to move quickly. And Derek? Raymond asked, his jaw tightening. What happens to him? The police are looking for him now, Patricia said. Based on Ethan's statement and the physical evidence, they'll be pressing charges. He won't be able to hurt that boy again. Raymond nodded slowly, some of the tension easing from his shoulders. Good. That's good. Patricia hesitated, then said, Ethan has been asking about you. He wants to say goodbye before we take him. Raymond walked over to where the boy was sitting, wrapped in a blanket despite the heat, looking smaller and more fragile than ever. Hey, kid, he said, crouching down. How are you holding up? Ethan looked at him with those two old eyes. I'm scared, he admitted. I don't know where I'm going or what's going to happen. I know, Raymond said. That's a scary thing. But these people are going to take care of you, okay? They're the good guys, like you? Raymond smiled. I'm just a truck driver who happened to be in the right place at the right time. Ethan shook his head. You're more than that. You listened to me. You believed me. Nobody ever believes me. Raymond felt his throat tighten. I'll always believe you, Ethan. And I want you to know, if you ever need anything, you can call me. He pulled out a business card from his wallet, one of the ones his company had printed up. This has my cell phone number on it. Day or night, okay? You call me. Ethan took the card like it was made of gold, clutching it to his chest. Thank you, Raymond. Thank you for everything. On impulse, Raymond reached out and hugged the boy, feeling those thin arms wrap around him one more time. You're going to be okay, kid, he whispered. I know it doesn't feel like it right now, but you're going to be okay. You're brave, Ethan, braver than you know. When they finally separated, both of them had tears in their eyes. Patricia gently led Ethan toward the door, and Raymond watched them go, feeling a strange mix of relief and sorrow. At the door, Ethan turned back one last time. Raymond, yeah? Thank you for not arresting me, the boy said, with just the ghost of a smile. I think this is better. Despite everything, Raymond laughed. I think so too, kid. Take care of yourself. And then they were gone, and Raymond was alone in the truck stop, surrounded by strangers who had no idea what had just happened. He looked at his watch. He was 6 hours behind schedule now. There was no way he was going to make his delivery on time. His boss was going to be furious. He might even lose the contract. But looking at the door where Ethan had disappeared, Raymond found that he did not care. Some things were more important than schedules and contracts. Some things were more important than money. He pulled out his phone and called his dispatcher, explaining the situation as briefly as he could. To his surprise, the man on the other end was understanding. Family emergency, he said. It happens. We'll find someone else to cover the route. You take care of what you need to take care of. Raymond thanked him and hung up, then walked out to his truck. The sun was starting to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, the brutal heat of the day finally beginning to ease. He climbed into the cab and sat there for a long moment, just breathing, letting the events of the afternoon wash over him. He had not done anything heroic, not really. He had just stopped. He had just paid attention. He had just been willing to get involved when it would have been easier to walk away. But for one small boy, that had been enough. That had been everything. Raymond started the engine and pulled out of the parking lot, pointing the truck west toward the setting sun. He would find a motel somewhere down the road, get some sleep, and figure out his next move in the morning. But first, he wanted to call Maria again, to hear her voice, to remind himself of all the good things in his life. She answered on the first ring. Dad? What happened? Is the boy okay? He's okay, Raymond said, his voice thick with emotion. They took him somewhere safe. They're going to find him a good home. Oh, Dad, Maria said, and he could hear tears in her voice too. I'm so proud of you. I didn't do anything special, Raymond said. Yes, you did, Maria insisted. You stopped, you cared. You didn't walk away. That's more than most people would do. That's everything. Raymond drove on through the gathering dusk, his daughter's words echoing in his mind. The road stretched before him, endless and familiar, leading toward destinations known and unknown. He thought about Ethan, about the courage it had taken for that child to ask a stranger for help, even if he had asked, in the only way he knew how. Please arrest me. 3 words that had broken Raymond's heart and changed his perspective all at once. No child should ever feel that way. No child should ever believe that prison is safer than home. And yet, Raymond knew that there were thousands of children out there just like Ethan, trapped in situations they could not escape, crying out for help in whatever way they could. He could not save them all. He knew that. But he could keep his eyes open, he could pay attention, he could stop when he saw something wrong and refuse to look away. That was what it meant to be human. Not to fix everything, but to show up. Not to have all the answers, but to ask the questions. Not to be a hero, but to be present. Raymond Torres drove on into the night, carrying with him the memory of a small boy with old eyes and a desperate plea. Please arrest me. No, Ethan, but I will protect you. I will believe you. I will fight for you. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough. 3 months passed before Raymond heard from Ethan again. The call came on a Sunday afternoon, while Raymond was at home in Tucson, enjoying a rare day off. He did not recognize the number, but something made him answer anyway. Mr. Torres, a woman's voice, hesitant but warm. This is Linda Hawkins. I'm Ethan Miller's foster mother. Raymond sat up straighter, his heart suddenly pounding. Is he okay? Is something wrong? No, Linda said quickly. Everything's fine, better than fine actually. That's why I'm calling. Ethan wanted to talk to you, but he was too nervous to call himself. He's been carrying your business card around for months. I think he's memorized the number by now. Raymond felt a smile spreading across his face. Put him on. There was a rustling, a whispered conversation, and then a familiar voice came on the line. Raymond. Hey, kid, how are you doing? I'm good, Ethan said, and Raymond could hear the truth of it in his voice. The fear and desperation that had colored every word at the truck stop was gone, replaced by something lighter, younger, more like what a 9-year-old should sound like. I'm really good. I wanted to tell you, tell me everything, Raymond said, settling back in his chair. The story poured out of Ethan in a rush, words tumbling over each other in his excitement. The Hawkins family had taken him in just 3 days after that day at the truck stop. They had 2 other foster kids, both older than Ethan, and a dog named Biscuit, who slept at the foot of his bed every night. I have my own room, Ethan said, wonder still evident in his voice, with a window and everything. Mrs. Hawkins lets me decorate it however I want. I put up posters of trucks, big ones, like yours. Raymond laughed. That's great, buddy, that's really great. And I started school here. I was scared at first, but there's this kid named Marcus who sits next to me in class, and he's really nice. We eat lunch together every day. He wants to be an astronaut when he grows up. I told him I want to drive a truck. He said that was cool too. It is cool, Raymond agreed. Trucking is a great job. Ethan was quiet for a moment, and when he spoke again, his voice was softer. Raymond, they caught Derek. He's in jail now. Mrs. Hawkins told me he can't hurt me anymore. Raymond closed his eyes, relief flooding through him. That's good, Ethan. That's really good. I was scared at first when I found out, Ethan admitted. I had nightmares for a while. But Mrs. Hawkins sits with me when I have bad dreams. She doesn't get mad or tell me to be quiet. She just sits there and holds my hand until I fall asleep again. She sounds like a wonderful person. She is, Ethan said. Mr. Hawkins is nice too. He's teaching me to play basketball. I'm not very good yet, but he says practice makes perfect. Raymond smiled, picturing it. You'll get there, kid. You've got time. There was another pause, and then Ethan said, Raymond, can I ask you something? Anything. Why did you stop? That day at the truck stop, you could have just walked by. Lots of people walked by, but you stopped. Why? Raymond thought about the question, about the answer he had given himself 100 times over the past 3 months. Because I saw you, he said finally. Because you were sitting there all alone and you needed someone to see you. And I guess I couldn't pretend I didn't. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. That's what Mrs. Hawkins says, he said eventually. She says the world needs more people who see, who really see, not just look. Your Mrs. Hawkins is a smart lady. Yeah, Ethan agreed. She is. Raymond? Yeah? Thank you. I know I already said it, but thank you. You saved my life. Raymond felt his throat tighten. You saved your own life, Ethan. You had the courage to ask for help. That's not easy. A lot of adults can't do that. But you listened, Ethan said. That's the important part. You listened. They talked for a few more minutes about school and trucks and the dog named Biscuit. When they finally hung up, Raymond sat in his chair for a long time, staring out the window at the desert landscape, thinking about fate and chance and the small moments that changed everything. His phone buzzed with a text from Maria. How was your call with the kid? Raymond typed back, good. Really good. He's going to be okay. Maria's response came with a string of heart emojis and then, proud of you, Dad. Always. Raymond smiled and set down his phone. The sun was starting to set, painting the sky in familiar shades of orange and gold. Tomorrow, he would be back on the road, hauling freight across the country 1 mile at a time. But today, right now, he was exactly where he needed to be. The months turned into years, and the calls from Ethan became a regular part of Raymond's life. They talked every few weeks at first, then every month, then on birthdays and holidays. Raymond watched from a distance as the scared boy from the truck stop grew into a confident young man. At 12, Ethan was adopted by the Hawkins family. He called Raymond the day it became official, his voice cracking with emotion. They're my real family now, he said. I have a mom and a dad and brothers and a sister. I have a family. You always deserved that, Raymond told him. I'm so happy for you, kid. At 14, Ethan joined the wrestling team at his high school. He was small for his age, but quick and determined. He sent Raymond videos of his matches, and Raymond watched everyone, cheering even though no one could hear him. At 16, Ethan got his driver's license. The first place he drove, he told Raymond, was the truck stop where they had met. I just sat in the parking lot for a while, he said, remembering. It seems like a different life now. It was a different life, Raymond said. You've come so far, Ethan. I'm proud of you. At 18, Ethan graduated from high school. Raymond drove 14 hours to be there, arriving just in time to see the boy, now a young man, walk across the stage to receive his diploma. Afterward, they stood in the parking lot, surrounded by families and graduates, and Ethan introduced Raymond to everyone as the man who saved my life. Raymond protested, as he always did. You saved your own life. I just happened to be there. But Ethan shook his head. You were there when it mattered. That's the whole point. That fall, Ethan started college, majoring in social work. I want to help kids like me, he told Raymond. Kids who think no one cares. I want to be the person who stops, who listens, who believes them. You'll be great at it, Raymond said. You have experience that most people don't. You understand what those kids are going through. That's what my advisor says, Ethan replied. She says my story can help other people. That's why I'm thinking about writing it down, maybe sharing it, so other kids know they're not alone. Raymond felt a swell of pride. That's a brave thing to do, Ethan, sharing your story. I learned from the best, Ethan said. You showed me that being brave isn't about not being scared. It's about doing the right thing even when you are scared. The years continued to pass, marked by graduations and jobs and the slow evolution of two lives that had intersected by chance and remained connected by choice. Raymond retired from trucking at 65, his body finally protesting the long hours behind the wheel. He bought a small house in Phoenix, close enough to the desert he had grown to love, but near enough to civilization for his aging bones to appreciate. Maria visited often, bringing her husband and children, filling the quiet house with laughter and chaos. Raymond discovered that he loved being a grandfather, loved reading bedtime stories and playing catch in the backyard, and all the small moments he had missed with his own daughter during his years on the road. And every few months, Ethan would visit too. He had graduated with honors, had gotten a job with Child Protective Services in California, had dedicated his life to finding and helping children who were slipping through the cracks. "I found one last week," Ethan told Raymond during one of their visits, sitting on the back porch as the sun set over the desert. "A little girl, maybe 7 years old. Same situation I was in. Scared, alone, convinced no one would believe her. What did you do?" "I believed her," Ethan said simply. "I stopped and I listened and I believed her, just like you did for me." Raymond nodded slowly. "And she's safe now, in a good foster home, starting to heal." Ethan paused, looking out at the darkening sky. "Every time I help one of them, I think about that day at the truck stop. About how different my life would have been if you hadn't stopped. You would have found another way," Raymond said. "You're a survivor, Ethan. You always were." "Maybe," Ethan said. "But you made it easier. You gave me hope when I had none left. You showed me that there were still good people in the world." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the stars emerge one by one. "Raymond," Ethan said eventually. "Yeah, thank you. I know I've said it 1,000 times, but I need to say it again. Thank you for stopping that day. Thank you for not walking away. Thank you for believing a scared kid who asked you to arrest him because he couldn't think of any other way to escape." Raymond reached over and squeezed Ethan's shoulder. "Thank you for having the courage to ask." Ethan smiled, and in that smile, Raymond saw the ghost of the terrified boy he had met all those years ago, transformed into the confident, compassionate man he had become. "You know what I realized?" Ethan said. "That day at the truck stop, I thought I was asking for something impossible. I thought I was asking to be saved by a stranger, but really, I was just asking to be seen, to matter to someone. And you gave me that. You saw me." Raymond nodded slowly. "Sometimes that's all any of us need, to be seen." They sat together until the stars filled the sky, two people whose lives had collided by chance and been forever changed by a single moment of compassion. "Please, arrest me." That desperate plea from a scared little boy had echoed through the years, transformed from a cry of despair into a testament to survival. Ethan had not needed to be arrested. He had needed to be loved, believed, protected. And in the end, that was exactly what he had found. Not in a prison cell, but in the arms of a foster family who chose him. Not from a police officer, but from a truck driver who stopped. Not through punishment, but through grace. Raymond Torres looked at the man Ethan had become and felt a profound sense of gratitude, not for anything he had done, but for the privilege of being part of this story, of watching a broken child heal, of seeing hope triumph over despair. The night deepened around them, soft and warm, full of the sounds of the desert and the promise of tomorrow, and somewhere, out on the highways of America, other children were waiting for someone to stop, waiting for someone to listen, waiting for someone to believe them. Ethan would find them. Raymond was sure of it. He would find them and help them and show them that they mattered, just as Raymond had once done for him. The cycle of compassion, continuing, the legacy of one moment, multiplying, the simple act of stopping, of seeing, of caring, rippling outward through time and space. "Please arrest me, no, child. But I will see you, I will hear you, I will believe you, and that will be enough. That will be everything." Raymond smiled as sleep began to pull at him, content in the knowledge that he had done something that mattered, not something grand or heroic, but something real. He had stopped, he had listened, he had believed, and in doing so, he had helped change the world, one child at a time. The next morning, Raymond woke to the smell of coffee brewing. Ethan was already up, standing at the kitchen counter, watching the sunrise through the window. "Couldn't sleep?" Raymond asked, shuffling into the kitchen. Ethan shook his head. "I kept thinking about a case I'm working on. A boy, about 11 years old. His situation reminds me so much of mine. He's trapped with an uncle who hurts him, and every time we try to remove him, the uncle convinces the judge that the kid is lying." Raymond poured himself a cup of coffee and sat down at the kitchen table. "What are you going to do?" "Keep trying," Ethan said simply. "Keep documenting, keep advocating. Eventually the truth will come out. It always does." Raymond studied the young man, seeing the determination in his eyes. "You're doing good work, Ethan. Important work." "I know," Ethan said, "but sometimes it feels like for every kid I help, there are 10 more I can't reach. The system is broken, Raymond. It's designed to protect families, which is good in theory, but in practice it means that abusers get the benefit of the doubt while children suffer." "So what's the answer?" Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair. "More resources, more training for social workers, better laws that put children's safety first, but mostly more people who are willing to stop, to pay attention, to get involved. You know how many people walked past me at that truck stop before you came along? Dozens, maybe more. They saw a kid sitting alone, and they just kept walking. People are busy," Raymond said. "They have their own problems. I know. But it only takes a minute to ask if someone is okay. 1 minute. That's all it took for you to change my entire life." Ethan turned to face him, his expression intense. "That's why I do what I do, because I know that one person can make a difference. I'm living proof of it." Raymond felt a warmth in his chest. "You're the proof, Ethan, not me. You did the hard part. You survived. You healed. You turned your pain into purpose." "We both did the hard part," Ethan said, "in different ways. You could have walked away, and you didn't. That's not nothing, Raymond. That's everything." They drank their coffee in companionable silence, watching the desert come alive with the morning light. Lizards scurried across rocks, birds called to each other from the sparse vegetation, and the sky shifted from pink to gold to brilliant blue. "I should get on the road soon," Ethan said eventually. "I have a meeting this afternoon back in California." Raymond nodded. "Drive safe. And call me when you get home." "Always do," Ethan said with a smile. He rinsed his cup in the sink, then turned to Raymond. "Hey, I'm presenting at a conference next month. Social work professionals, foster families, that kind of thing. I'm going to tell our story. Is that okay with you?" Raymond raised an eyebrow. "Our story? Yeah. How we met. What happened after. I want people to know that it doesn't take a superhero to save a life. Just a regular person who's willing to stop and care." Raymond considered this for a moment. "If you think it will help other kids, then absolutely. Tell anyone who will listen." Ethan's smile widened. "Thank you. And Raymond, I'm going to ask the conference organizers if you can be there. If you want to, I mean. It would mean a lot to have you in the audience." Raymond felt a flutter of nervousness at the thought of being in front of all those people, but he pushed it aside. For Ethan, he would do anything. "I'll be there," he said. "Wouldn't miss it." They embraced at the door, a hug that said more than words ever could. Then Ethan was gone, his car disappearing down the dusty road toward the highway, leaving Raymond alone with his thoughts. He spent the rest of the day puttering around the house, fixing a leaky faucet, watering the small garden he had planted in the backyard. The physical work was soothing, giving his hands something to do while his mind wandered. He thought about the conference, about standing in front of a room full of strangers and being introduced as the man who saved Ethan Miller's life. It felt strange, wrong somehow. He had not done anything special. He had just been there. He had just stopped. But maybe that was the point. Maybe the whole message was that saving a life did not require special skills or training or resources. It just required showing up, being present, caring. If that message could reach even one person who then went on to help a child in need, was not that worth any amount of discomfort? Raymond decided it was. The conference was held in San Diego, in a hotel ballroom with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the ocean. Raymond arrived early, feeling out of place in his best suit among all the professionally dressed social workers and administrators. But then Ethan found him, and suddenly everything was okay. The young man was practically vibrating with nervous energy, his notes clutched in one hand, his other hand straightening his tie for the 15th time. "You ready for this?" Raymond asked. "As ready as I'll ever be," Ethan said. "Just promise you'll still be there when I look out at the audience. I might need to see a friendly face." "I'll be right in the front row," Raymond assured him. The ballroom filled slowly, hundreds of people taking their seats, their conversations creating a low buzz that filled the air. Raymond found his seat and sat down, watching as Ethan took his place at the podium, setting up his notes and adjusting the microphone. When the room finally quieted, Ethan began to speak. "When I was 9 years old," he said, his voice clear and strong, "I asked a stranger to arrest me. I begged him, actually, because I had convinced myself that prison would be safer than home." A murmur ran through the audience. Raymond saw people leaning forward, their attention captured. Ethan continued, "I was being abused by my stepfather. My mother had died, and there was no one else. I had tried to get help before, but the system failed me. My abuser was charming and manipulative, and he convinced everyone that I was a liar, so I stopped trying. I stopped hoping. I accepted that this was my life, and I would either survive it or I wouldn't." The room was utterly silent now. And then, one day, at a truck stop in Arizona, I saw a man walking toward me. He was big, with a company logo on his shirt, and I thought maybe, just maybe, he was someone with authority, someone who could make it all stop. So I asked him to arrest me. I thought if I could just be taken away, put somewhere, anywhere, it would be better than going back. Ethan paused, his eyes finding Raymond in the front row. But here's the thing. That man wasn't a police officer. He wasn't a social worker or a child advocate. He was a truck driver named Raymond Torres, on his way to deliver a load of produce to Phoenix. He had no training in child welfare. He had no obligation to help me. He could have walked away and no one would have blamed him. But he didn't. He stopped. He asked if I was okay. He listened when I told him my story. And when my stepfather showed up and tried to take me back, he stood between us and refused to move. Raymond felt tears prickling at the corners of his eyes. Around him, he could hear other people sniffling. "That one decision," Ethan continued, "that one moment of courage from an ordinary man changed the entire trajectory of my life. The police were called. My stepfather was arrested. I was placed with an amazing foster family who eventually adopted me. I graduated from college, and now I do this work, helping other children who are trapped in the same darkness I once knew." He leaned forward, his eyes sweeping across the audience. "I tell you this story not to celebrate myself, but to illustrate a simple truth. You don't have to be a professional to save a life. You don't need special training or official authority. You just need to be willing to stop, to see, to listen, to believe. Every person in this room has the power to be someone's Raymond Torres. Every person in this room can be the one who doesn't walk away. It doesn't take much. Just a question, are you okay? Just a moment of attention. Just the simple act of caring." Ethan straightened, his voice growing stronger. "In my work, I see too many children who have given up on adults. They've learned that grown-ups don't listen, don't believe them, don't protect them. They've learned to survive on their own because no one else will help them. We can change that, not just through policy and procedure, though those things matter, but through individual acts of compassion, through choosing to see the children who have learned to be invisible, through asking the questions that no one else will ask." He took a deep breath. "Raymond Torres is here today. He's sitting in the front row, probably embarrassed by all this attention. He'll tell you that he didn't do anything special, that he just happened to be in the right place at the right time. But I'm here to tell you that what he did was extraordinary. He saw a child in pain, and he chose to help. He believed me when no one else would." Ethan's voice broke slightly. That's all any child in crisis needs. Someone who sees them, someone who believes them, someone who refuses to walk away. Be that person. Be someone's Raymond Torres, because you never know whose life you might save. The room erupted in applause, people rising to their feet, the sound washing over Raymond like a wave. He stood too, clapping along with everyone else, his eyes locked on Ethan's face. The young man smiled at him through tears, and in that moment Raymond understood something he had never quite grasped before. This was his legacy. Not the miles he had driven, or the loads he had delivered, not the money he had earned, or the contracts he had fulfilled. This young man, standing at that podium, dedicating his life to helping others. This was what mattered. This was what lasted. After the presentation, Raymond was surrounded by people who wanted to shake his hand, who wanted to thank him, who wanted to tell their own stories of children they had helped or wished they had helped. It was overwhelming, but in a good way. He could see the impact of Ethan's words in their eyes, the determination to do better, to be more present, to not walk away. When the crowd finally thinned, Ethan found him again. "So, what did you think?" "I think you did great," Raymond said. "I think you reached them." "I hope so," Ethan said. "I really hope so." They walked out of the hotel together into the bright San Diego sunshine. The ocean sparkled in the distance, and seagulls wheeled overhead, their cries mixing with the sounds of traffic and conversation. "What now?" Raymond asked. "Now I keep going," Ethan said. "I keep telling the story, I keep helping kids, and I keep remembering that one person can make a difference." Raymond nodded slowly. "You know, I spent 30 years on the road, thinking that I wasn't doing anything important, just moving goods from one place to another. But now, looking back, I realized that every single day was an opportunity. Every truck stop, every rest area, every parking lot. There were people who needed help, and most of the time I just drove past." "You can't help everyone," Ethan said gently. "I know. But I could have helped more. I could have stopped more often. I could have paid more attention." Ethan put a hand on his shoulder. "You helped me, and because of that, I've been able to help hundreds of other kids. The ripple effect of that one decision is still spreading. You can't know how many lives you've touched, Raymond, not directly, but through me. Through all the children I've helped, who will grow up and maybe help others." Raymond felt the truth of those words settle into his bones. The ripple effect. That was the key. Not trying to save the whole world at once, but saving one person who would then save another and another, the compassion multiplying and spreading. "Thank you, Ethan," he said quietly, "for helping me see that." "Thank you for stopping," Ethan replied, "for everything." They stood there for a moment, two people connected by chance and bonded by choice, looking out at the endless blue of the Pacific Ocean. "Please arrest me." The words that had started it all. The desperate plea of a child who had run out of options, and the answer that had changed everything. Not arrest, but presence, compassion, belief. The simple, powerful act of stopping. Raymond Torres had spent his life on the road, chasing horizons and running from connections. But in the end, his greatest journey had happened in a truck stop parking lot, when he chose to stop running and start seeing. And because of that choice, the world was a little brighter, a little kinder, a little more hopeful. One child at a time, one stop at a time, one moment of grace at a time. The desert wind whispered through the night, carrying with it the sounds of cicadas and distant traffic, the eternal soundtrack of a land that had witnessed countless journeys, countless stories, countless moments of connection between strangers. Tomorrow would bring new days, new challenges, new opportunities to make a difference. But tonight, under the vast Arizona sky, two people sat together in the comfortable silence of deep friendship, grateful for the chance that had brought them together and the choice that had kept them connected. "Please arrest me." The words that had started everything, that had broken a heart and opened a door and changed two lives forever. Not an ending, but a beginning. Not a plea for punishment, but a cry for help. And in answering that cry, Raymond Torres had discovered something he had not known he was looking for. Purpose, connection, family, the things that matter most, the things that last. Ethan would carry the lesson forward, passing it on to every child he helped, every life he touched. And those children would grow up and do the same, the ripples spreading ever outward, touching shores that Raymond would never see. That was the real miracle. Not the saving of one boy, but the multiplication of compassion. The way a single act of kindness could echo through generations, changing everything. Please arrest me, no, but I will love you, I will protect you, I will believe in you. And together we will change the world. One stop at a time, one child at a time, one moment of grace at a time. The stars wheeled overhead, ancient and eternal, bearing witness to the small miracles that happened every day. And somewhere on the endless highways of America, a truck driver stopped for a frightened child, and everything changed, everything. The night settled over the desert, peaceful and deep. Raymond dozed in his chair, dreaming of open roads and second chances. Beside him, Ethan watched the stars, thinking about all the children still waiting to be found. Tomorrow, he would go back to work. Tomorrow, he would keep searching, keep listening, keep believing. But tonight, he was exactly where he needed to be. Home, with family, at peace, and grateful, so grateful for a truck driver who stopped, who listened, who believed, who changed everything with 3 simple words. I believe you. The most powerful words in any language, the words that save lives, the words that heal hearts, the words that change the world. I believe you. Ethan smiled and closed his eyes, letting the desert night embrace him. Safe, loved, believed. Finally, after all these years, finally home. The next morning brought a phone call that would change everything once again. Raymond was sipping his coffee on the back porch when his phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. Normally he would let it go to voicemail, but something made him answer. Mr. Torres, a woman's voice, professional but warm. My name is Amanda Richardson. I'm a producer with a documentary film company in Los Angeles. I was wondering if I could speak with you about your story. My story? Raymond set down his coffee cup. Yes, the story of how you met Ethan Miller at that truck stop. We've been following his advocacy work, and we're developing a documentary about child abuse awareness. We'd like to feature your story as the centerpiece. Raymond was silent for a moment, processing the request. I don't know, he said finally. I'm not really comfortable being in front of cameras. I understand, Amanda said. But think about the reach a documentary could have. Millions of people could hear your story. Millions of truckers, teachers, coaches, neighbors. Anyone who might be in a position to notice a child in need. She had a point. Raymond thought about all the times he had told his story, all the lives that had been touched, because someone heard it and was inspired to act. A documentary would amplify that effect exponentially. Let me think about it, he said. And talk to Ethan, of course. Take all the time you need. He called Ethan as soon as he hung up. The younger man listened quietly as Raymond explained the offer. What do you think? Raymond asked. Ethan was silent for a moment. I think you should do it, he said finally. I know it's uncomfortable. I know you don't like attention. But think about what it could mean. Think about all the kids who might be saved because someone saw this documentary and decided to pay attention. That's what I was thinking too, Raymond admitted. Then why are you hesitating? Raymond sighed, because it feels wrong somehow. Taking credit for something that wasn't really about me. You're the one who survived. You're the one who turned your life around. I just happened to be there. Ethan's voice was gentle but firm. Raymond, we've had this conversation 100 times. You being there mattered. Your decision to stop mattered. Your refusal to walk away mattered. You can't separate your part of the story from mine. They're intertwined, I know, You're scared, Ethan said. And that's okay. Being scared doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. It just means it's important. Raymond smiled despite himself. When did you get so wise? I had a good teacher. They agreed to meet with the documentary team together, presenting a united front. If they were going to tell their story to the world, they would do it side by side, the same way they had faced everything else. The filming took 6 months. The crew followed Raymond on his daily routines, captured his interviews with a sensitivity that put him at ease, and wove together a narrative that was both intimate and universal. They interviewed Ethan extensively, letting him tell his own story in his own words. They talked to Linda Hawkins, now grey-haired but still sharp-eyed, about what it had been like to welcome a traumatized child into her home. They spoke with the police officers who had responded that day, with the social workers who had facilitated Ethan's placement, with the dozens of children Ethan had helped in the years since. The result was a documentary called The Stop, a reference to Raymond's decision to pause at that truck stop all those years ago. It premiered at a film festival in Austin, Texas, to a standing ovation. Within weeks, it had been picked up by a major streaming platform and was being watched by millions of people around the world. The response was overwhelming. Raymond received thousands of emails, letters, and messages from people who had been moved by the film. Truckers wrote to say they had started paying more attention at truck stops. Teachers described being more vigilant about signs of abuse in their students. Parents talked about having difficult conversations with their children about what to do if someone hurt them. But the messages that meant the most came from survivors, adults who had experienced abuse as children and had never told anyone. Young people currently trapped in dangerous situations who saw the film and found the courage to ask for help. And children, so many children, who wrote to say that they finally believed someone might listen to them. One letter in particular stayed with Raymond long after he read it. "Dear Mr. Torres, I'm 11 years old. I watched your movie with my mom, and after it was over, I told her something I've never told anyone. I told her that my uncle has been touching me in ways that make me feel scared and bad. My mom believed me. She called the police. And now I don't have to see my uncle anymore. I wanted to say thank you. I always thought no one would believe me if I told. But your movie showed me that some people do believe. Some people stop and listen and help. Thank you for being one of those people. Love, a kid who is safe now because of you." Raymond read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down his face. Then he carefully folded it and placed it with all the others, in the drawer that was now overflowing with evidence of lives changed. One stop, one question, one moment of compassion, and the ripples kept spreading, touching shores that Raymond would never see, changing lives that he would never know. That was the miracle of it, really. Not that one man had saved one boy, but that one act of kindness could multiply endlessly, passed from hand to hand and heart to heart, until it circled the entire world. "Please arrest me." The desperate words of a child who had run out of hope, and the answer that had changed everything. Not arrest, but attention, compassion, belief. The simple, powerful act of stopping. Raymond Torres had spent his life in motion, covering millions of miles on the highways of America, but in the end, his greatest contribution had come from standing still, from pausing, from being present, from stopping. That was the lesson he hoped the documentary would teach. Not that heroes were special or different from ordinary people, but that ordinary people could do heroic things simply by paying attention, by caring, by refusing to look away. Every person had that power. Every person could be the one who stopped. And if enough people did, maybe the world would change. Maybe children would stop falling through the cracks. Maybe abuse would be caught earlier, prevented more often, punished more severely. Maybe the epidemic of hurting children would finally begin to end. It was a big dream, maybe too big for one man, one documentary, one story. But it had to start somewhere, and it had started with a stop. Raymond walked outside and looked up at the stars, the same stars that had watched over him and Ethan all those years ago. They seemed to twinkle with approval, with encouragement, with hope. Somewhere out there, a child was waiting to be found. Somewhere out there, a trucker was pulling into a rest stop, noticing something that did not seem quite right. Somewhere out there, the ripples were still spreading, and Raymond smiled, content in the knowledge that the story was far from over. It was just beginning. Again, and again, and again. For as long as there were children who needed help and people willing to give it. For as long as there were strangers willing to stop for other strangers. For as long as there was love in the world. The story would continue, the ripples would spread, and the simple, powerful question would keep being asked. Are you okay? 3 words. The beginning of everything. The beginning of hope. The beginning of change. Are you okay? Ask it. Mean it. Change the world. One stop at a time. Raymond Torres went back inside his small house in Phoenix, feeling the warmth of gratitude wash over him. In the kitchen, he poured himself another cup of coffee and sat at the table where so many important conversations had taken place. His phone buzzed with a text message from Maria. Just saw the documentary with the kids. They want to know if their grandpa is famous now. He smiled and typed back, tell them their grandpa is just a truck driver who got lucky once. Maria's response came quickly. You're more than that, Dad. You always were. Raymond set down his phone and looked out the window at the desert morning, golden light spilling across the landscape he had come to love. The cactus in his backyard was blooming, pink flowers unfurling against the blue sky, a small miracle of persistence and survival. Like Ethan, he thought. Like all the children who had found their way out of darkness into light. The phone rang again. This time, it was Ethan himself. Did you see the numbers? Ethan asked, excitement evident in his voice. The documentary has been viewed over 50 million times in the first week. 50 million, Raymond. That's 50 million people who heard our story. Raymond whistled softly. That's a lot of people. And the calls we're getting at the office, Ethan continued. The increase in reports from concerned adults, the kids who are finally speaking up. Raymond, it's working. It's actually working. Raymond felt tears prick at the corners of his eyes. Then it was worth it. All of it, every moment, Ethan agreed. Every uncomfortable interview, every time you wanted to run and hide. Worth it. They talked for a while longer, making plans to meet up the following week, discussing a new initiative Ethan was developing to train truckers in recognizing signs of child abuse. When they finally hung up, Raymond felt lighter than he had in years. He had spent most of his life thinking he was just passing through, that the miles he drove were simply the distance between point A and point B. But now he understood that every mile was an opportunity. Every stop was a chance to change a life. Every moment was pregnant with possibility. Please arrest me. The words that had started it all, the desperate plea that had cracked open his heart and shown him what really mattered. He would carry those words with him for the rest of his life, not as a burden, but as a gift. A reminder that the most important journeys were not the ones that covered distance, but the ones that closed it. That brought people together. That transformed strangers into family. Raymond Torres finished his coffee and went outside to tend his garden, the desert sun warm on his face, the future stretching before him like an open road. There were still miles to travel. There were still stories to tell. There were still children to save, and he would be there, stopping when it mattered, listening when it counted, believing when no one else would. Because that was who he was now. That was who he had always been, even when he did not know it. A man who stopped, a man who cared, a man who changed the world, one child at a time. And somewhere, in every truck stop in America, other truckers were waking up to that same truth. Other ordinary people were discovering their extraordinary power. Other stories were beginning. The ripples spread ever outward. And the world grew a little brighter with each passing day. Months later, Raymond received an unexpected visitor. He was sitting on his porch, watching the sunset paint the desert sky in shades of crimson and gold, when a car pulled into his driveway. A woman stepped out, hesitant but determined, holding the hand of a young boy who could not have been more than 8 years old. Raymond stood up, curious but cautious. "Can I help you?" The woman approached slowly, her eyes red-rimmed as if she had been crying. "Mr. Torres, my name is Jennifer Walsh. This is my son, Michael." She paused, taking a shaky breath. "We saw your documentary, and I needed to come here to thank you in person." Raymond gestured for them to come up onto the porch, offering them seats and glasses of cold water. Jennifer sat down heavily, as if the weight of the world was on her shoulders. "Michael was being abused by his father," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "My ex-husband. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. We shared custody, and Michael never said anything. He was so quiet, so withdrawn, and I thought it was just because of the divorce." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "Then we watched your documentary together. When Ethan talked about being afraid to tell anyone, about thinking no one would believe him, Michael started crying, and then he told me everything." Raymond felt his heart clench. The same story, playing out in different homes, different families, different lives. The same fear, the same silence, the same desperate hope that someone would notice. "I called the police that night," Jennifer continued. "My ex-husband was arrested. Michael is safe now. He's in therapy. He's starting to heal." She looked at Raymond, with tears streaming down her face. "If we hadn't watched that documentary, I might never have known. My son might still be suffering, and I would have had no idea. You saved him, Mr. Torres. You and Ethan. You saved my boy." Raymond looked at Michael, who was sitting quietly, his eyes fixed on the ground. The boy seemed fragile, wounded, but there was something else there too. A spark of hope, perhaps. The beginning of healing. "Michael," Raymond said gently, "can I tell you something?" The boy looked up, his eyes wide and wary. "What happened to you wasn't your fault. None of it. And the fact that you told your mom, that you had the courage to speak up, that makes you one of the bravest people I've ever met." Michael's lower lip trembled. "I was scared," he whispered. "I know," Raymond said. "Being scared and doing it anyway, that's what courage is. You're going to be okay, Michael. It might take time and there might be hard days, but you're going to be okay. I promise." The boy stared at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. A tiny smile flickered across his face, there and gone so quickly, Raymond almost missed it. Jennifer stayed for another hour, talking about her plans for Michael's therapy, about the support group she had joined for parents of abused children, about her determination to help other families who might be going through the same thing. When they finally left, Raymond stood on his porch and watched their car disappear down the road, another ripple spreading outward from that moment in the truck stop all those years ago. He thought about all the Michaels out there, all the children still waiting to be heard, still waiting for someone to notice that something was wrong. The documentary had reached millions of people, but there were still so many who had not seen it, so many families where the silence remained unbroken. There was more work to do. There would always be more work to do. But for now, in this moment, one more child was safe. One more family was healing. One more story had a chance at a happy ending. And that was enough. That was everything. Raymond went inside and picked up his phone, dialing Ethan's number from memory. "You'll never believe who just visited me," he said when Ethan answered. He told the story, and on the other end of the line, he could hear Ethan's sharp intake of breath, followed by a long exhale. "That's why we do this," Ethan said quietly. "That's exactly why." "I know," Raymond agreed. "I just needed to hear your voice, to share it with someone who understands." "I always understand," Ethan said. "We're in this together, Raymond. Always have been, always will be." They talked for a while longer, about the new training program Ethan was developing, about the speaking engagements Raymond had reluctantly agreed to, about the endless parade of small victories and ongoing challenges that made up their shared mission. When they finally hung up, Raymond felt the familiar sense of peace settle over him, the peace that came from knowing he was exactly where he was supposed to be, doing exactly what he was supposed to do. "Please arrest me." The words still echoed in his memory, but they no longer carried the same weight of despair. Now they were a reminder, a touchstone, a call to action that would never stop resonating. Every child deserved to be seen. Every child deserved to be believed. Every child deserved someone who would stop, who would listen, who would fight for them. Raymond Torres had learned that lesson on a scorching Arizona afternoon from a desperate boy with nothing left to lose, and he would spend the rest of his life passing it on. One stop at a time, one child at a time, one act of courage at a time. The desert night settled around him, soft and warm and full of stars. Raymond sat on his porch watching the constellations wheel overhead, thinking about all the journeys that had brought him here and all the journeys yet to come. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new chances to make a difference. But tonight he was content simply to be, to exist in this moment of quiet gratitude, surrounded by the echoes of all the lives he had touched and all the lives that had touched him in return. Please arrest me. No, child, but I will see you. I will hear you. I will believe you. I will protect you. That was the promise Raymond had made all those years ago, without even knowing he was making it. And it was a promise he would keep until his very last breath, for Ethan, for Michael, for all the children still waiting to be found, for all the children who would never have to ask a stranger to arrest them because they finally had someone who would stop, who would listen, who would believe, who would love. The stars continued their ancient dance overhead, indifferent to the small dramas playing out beneath them. But Raymond knew better. He knew that every act of kindness mattered, that every moment of compassion rippled outward in ways that could never be fully measured or understood. He had spent his life moving, always moving, chasing horizons that receded as fast as he approached them. But in the end, the most important journey had happened when he stood still, when he stopped, when he saw, when he believed, and changed the world forever. Raymond woke early the next morning, before the sun had fully risen over the desert horizon. He made his coffee in the quiet kitchen, listening to the sounds of the house settling around him. His phone showed a new message from Ethan, sent late the night before. Got approval for the trucker training program. First session starts next month in Phoenix. Want to help me teach it? Raymond smiled and typed back, wouldn't miss it for the world. He took his coffee outside and sat on the porch steps, watching the sky slowly lighten from deep purple to soft pink to brilliant orange. A roadrunner darted across the yard, pausing to look at him with curious eyes before disappearing into the scrub brush. The training program Ethan had developed was designed to teach truckers how to recognize the signs of child abuse and trafficking, what to look for, what questions to ask, how to report concerns without putting anyone in danger. It was practical, straightforward, and desperately needed. Truckers were everywhere, Raymond knew. They saw things that other people missed. If even a fraction of them learned to pay attention, to trust their instincts, to stop when something felt wrong, the impact could be enormous. That was Ethan's vision, and now it was becoming reality. His phone rang. It was Maria. "Dad," she said, her voice bright with excitement, "we're moving to Phoenix. Carlos got a job offer, and we want to be closer to you. The kids want to see their grandpa more." Raymond felt his heart swell with joy. "That's wonderful news, Maria. The best news." Another ripple, spreading outward from that day at the truck stop. That evening, Raymond sat on his porch and watched the sunset, thinking about everything that had brought him to this moment. "Please arrest me." He could still hear the desperation in that young voice. But now, when he remembered that moment, he also saw what came after. The healing, the growth, the transformation. That was the message he would carry with him for the rest of his life. You have the power to change a life. You have the power to save a child. All you have to do is stop. All you have to do is see. All you have to do is believe. The stars emerged one by one, ancient lights from unimaginable distances. Raymond knew that every act of kindness, every moment of compassion, Every decision to stop instead of walk away added up to something larger than any individual could comprehend. The world was changed one person at a time, one child at a time, one stop at a time. Raymond Torres smiled and closed his eyes, letting the desert night embrace him. He had done good in the world, and the ripples were still spreading, forever outward, forever onward, forever changing everything they touched. Please arrest me. No, child, but I will love you. I will protect you. I will believe in you. And together we will change the world. The end.